Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the first live Helen Millar Cacao Cooling, Head to Heart Living. So it makes perfect sense for me in this hotel room in Kefalonia to bring you my first live video, as all sorts of technical gremlins have got in the way of me uploading the prepared one. But I really wanted to start to bring my lives onto this new platform because I've been getting lots of great feedback over the lockdown, which is when I started, in Facebook and Instagram. And so now I want to take it to the next level. So here I am, YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining. Please subscribe if you want essentially top tips about to hack a life based on love, not fear. Essentially everything we do in life, whether it is brushing your teeth to what job you choose to do, comes from a thought or a need or a desire that is sponsored by one side of the spectrum, either fear or love. And all the work I do, all the lessons I've learned, all the training, all the modalities I've worked with, all the shamanic, the Buddhist, the practical, the everyday, all of my life's journey has taught me many tools to shift from a fear-based life to a love-based life. And the benefit of doing this is that you feel stronger, you feel happier, you feel healthier, and essentially you want to look back on a life. I mean, I don't know, there's been a study from people who work in hospices, nurses, and fabulous people who help people transition out of this lifetime, that the biggest regret people generally say is that they didn't have more fun or they didn't love more. Not that they wish they'd earned more money or they wish they'd worked harder. And so I don't want to be that person, and I don't want you to be that person. If we live from our hearts, the changes are unbelievable. We have better boundaries. We have better self-respect. We have more energy because we are doing things that light us up. So that's what this video is about. If anyone has any questions or any comments, please pop them in the chat. If you want to hear more hacks and videos and perspectives about how to live from your heart, not your head, especially as we're in 2020 and the changes that started this year aren't going away. This is the rebirth of a new way of being on the planet. So if you want any guidance with this, please subscribe. Each video is going to be quite different to the others because I have quite a lot of different ways of coming at it. So I'm a Buddhist. I've also worked a lot shamanically, and I've trained in a lot of different modalities around the world with different indigenous peoples or thought leaders, you might call them. And so I've got a toolkit that I want to share because I went from a really, really miserable way of living to a much, much, much happier way. And that doesn't mean that every day is easy. It isn't. That's why we are human beings. We didn't sign up for an easy ride. But in the same way as a patchwork quilt is a patchwork quilt because of the patches, so we are human beings because of all the different emotions and feelings and intensities that we get to travel through. And what 2020 is bringing us is an opportunity to get to know ourselves a hell of a lot better and to grow and expand in ways that may have taken us decades or lifetimes even in the past. We're having a fast forward button pushed on our acceleration as human beings. And essentially, it's my belief that we decided to incarnate on this planet, to choose this lifetime, bear with me if this isn't your kind of language, to grow. Not to see how much cake we could eat, not to see how many zeros we could have in our bank balance, but to see how much we could grow as a human being, how much more our soul could experience that it hasn't done before. It's like, why do we go to the gym to lift weights? Because we want to get stronger. But you have to go through the uncomfortableness of lifting the weight to grow that muscle. And in life, we tend to, when we get into something that we find resistance or we feel uncomfortable, we tend to suffer with it. We tend to go into a mindset of, I don't want to, why me? It's not fair. I don't want it to be like this. But if we shift our mindset, in the same way, you don't pick up a weight in the gym and go, oh, why is it heavy? I wish it wasn't heavy. Why did somebody make a heavy weight? You know what I mean? Like, of course, you pick the weight that is right for your build. I'm not going to try and lift some, 700 kilogram thing. And in the same way, I believe your higher self or your soul, whatever you want to call it, has chosen a path or is choosing a path that you are in control of as well. Like, you can change your karma for sure. It's not easy, but you definitely can. You're not going to get weights that you can't lift. But where we can go awry is how much suffering we create by how much our mindset is, oh, this is a heavy weight. Okay, not right now, but I'm going to lift some smaller ones till I build up the strength to tackle that one, and then I'm going to feel great. Or you go, oh yeah, okay, I'm feeling the burn, feeling the strain. Come on, life. I'm dealing with this. I'm getting stronger as a result of this. I have absolutely unlimited resources. And I know that I have so much to draw on with myself, my network, that I can move through anything. I can lift any of these weights as long as I work hard enough, safely enough with it, don't injure myself along the way. If we put that mindset on life, it's a lot easier. Okay, so if you're still with me, let's go with some top tips just to start with, that hopefully you can implement in the next couple of days to see if they make a difference to your enjoyment on the planet right now, because there's an awful lot, no matter where you are, working against our enjoyment levels. And the reason for doing this, okay, so the reason for not sticking your head in the sand and, having a small scale life, like living life in little letters, is we want to become diamond-like people, right? And diamond is, we want to be the kind of people that shine, that people want to be around, that are magnetic, right? That people, well, what is it about that person? I can't quite put my finger on it, but people who, when you're, those people in your life that when you're around, it doesn't really matter what you do, but their energy lifts you up. Yeah. That's the kind of people, if we were all like that, if the world was full of these people, like, the whole collective experience of being a human being would raise. Okay, so this sense of capability and enjoyment, not martyrdom, not, oh, I work so hard, look at me striving along and not complaining, not that, okay, but somebody who gets knocked down and gets up again, gets up again and gets up again. So, top tip number 1 is, okay, so these are some of these things you're going to know, but they're also, oh, that was my exciting high-tech lighting equipment that wouldn't fit in my suitcase. I'm using my phone to light this, coming down. Okay, there we go. Mercury's in retrograde. I'll be bringing in some astrology as well along the journey. So that you can, and the reason that I work with astrology as well is because it's like knowing what the weather is. Okay, so at the moment I'm somewhere that might be hot, Greek island, but there's a massive storm outside. So if I was to go out, I would put on a raincoat or take an umbrella, or if I hadn't packed any of those things, I would stay inside. And guess which one I did. Okay. So it's like knowing where the planets are and what those alignments and positions mean in relation to yourself is like being able to like quickly check the weather forecast on your phone before you go out. So you don't end up wearing a swimming costume and being freezing, or vice versa, wearing an overcoat and going, oh, it's so hot. So this is why astrology I find is helpful. Not that it determines your life, but it's a good way of knowing when to, you know, have that conversation with your boss, when to, you know, tell somebody you love them, all that sort of thing. And I would say always tell people you love them. It's not enough love in the world. Okay, keeping you waiting, aren't I? Thanks for joining. Top tip number 1, gratitude. Okay, so everything that we experience is a frequency. And one of the highest frequencies that we can have going through our body is gratitude. And it's really difficult to get there because we take things for granted all the time. Think about this year, think about 2020, think about 2019, think about all the things that were giving you like meh enjoyment compared to if you get to do them this year. And it's like, oh my God, going to a gig, going to the theatre, you know, having a house party, like whatever your jazz is. Those things, thanks for the thumbs up. To put in the chat if there are things that you can instantly be, that you come into your head for like gratitude. Like going to some of my favorite vegan restaurants that are no longer existing at the moment, you know. And yeah, like, oh, so many things. So gratitude. Okay, so how do we get into a state of gratitude? And I could say, write your gratitude list, you know, before you go to bed. And that is a really good thing because you're putting your body into a higher frequency before you go to sleep. A whole new video will be about sleep and what happens when you're asleep, especially at the moment, especially if anyone's feeling extra tired. There's a lot of things happening, go into sort of the multidimensionality of sleep and what goes on another time. But gratitude is a really good thing to start putting into your system. Oh, some lightning, exciting, before you go to sleep. So you can write your 5 things, your 10 things, your gratitude list. What I would do to take it a step further, to try and get yourself really into it, is not just write, oh, I'm really grateful for my mate so-and-so, or I'm really grateful that I got the bus today and I wasn't late when I rushed for it, or whatever it is. Okay. And then write why, like, because this person gives me support, she makes me laugh, blah, 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 and go and break it down so that you actually have to make your mind do a bit of the work. And as you start to do that level, then you'll start to evoke memories. And then when you bring emotion into it, that is what's going to start to change the vibration, because emotions essentially are vibrations. And that is why some that we enjoy and some we don't, but they can also always move through us. And that is something else to really remember. And top tips for happy living. So top tip number 1 is gratitude. How to get there, do your gratitude journal, but write why. The second one is to realize always that our emotions are just frequencies that will move through you. And that goes for the great ones, and that goes from the not so great ones, not so enjoyable ones. However, when we're in depression, apathy, you know, the real murk that we get to go through as human beings, in order that we can experience all of that patchwork quilt, we couldn't appreciate, I mean, it goes without saying, but you can't appreciate the good stuff unless you have the tougher stuff. We only get all the colors in the rainbow because we have the spectrum. Okay, so when we feel depression, when we feel apathy, when we feel despair, when we feel listless, when we feel fear, terror, any of the really intense ones, they feel overwhelming. They reduce our ability to see spectrum, to see scope, and we feel like this is going to be it for eternity. So it's really helpful to remember that the emotion is just a frequency that's passing through you. It can't stay there forever. And the more that we bring our conscious awareness, and that is the whole of ourselves, not just our mind, but realizing that our mind is just like, almost like it's the bone in your forearm, it's your shin bone or your tibia, or some science coming back to me of the skeletal system. And then you have your mind, but your mind is not all of you. We are multi-dimensional, faceted, souls that have been reincarnated many, many times and have experienced all sorts of things. We are capable of, so much more. We are in our infancy as a humanity on this land, and you can see that at the moment. And we are up leveling. We are moving from, I might say, primary, I'd probably say nursery, kindergarten, into primary school. This is what this shift is. It's one way, metaphorically explaining it. This falling down of everything is so the new world can be built, moving into the age of Aquarius, which is the balancing of the masculine and the feminine energies inside us, and then collectively inside society, rather than the suppression or the only valuing the masculine energies. And we can do that all as people. The masculine energies of doing, of accomplishment through competition. These energies, rather than the more creative, the more flowing, the less structured ones and the receptive ones, the intuition, the meditation, which are the feminine energies. We have these both inside of us, but if we only ever focus on one, we become out of balance. And if we only respect one, we become out of balance. The world has become out of balance. This new age is into balancing them. Thank you for the comments. So this balancing is going to happen when we understand that the emotions that move through us are frequencies, and that we are more than that emotion. It helps us, and this is what meditation can cultivate, this is what chanting can cultivate. It helps us suffer less. Not suffer not no suffering. Suffering is part of the human package, but suffer less. So you can say, rather than saying, I am angry, I am feeling angry, I am feeling anger right now. When you did X, Y, Z, that made me feel anger, rather than you're wrong, I'm right. That's that polarization. Also, nobody can argue with how something makes you feel, rather than you can't, and it allows you to express yourself. It also allows you to acknowledge what's moving through you. Because when we try to suppress what we feel, and this is moving away from living in our heart, and lie about no, I was fine with that, honestly, no problem at all with that. No, when we don't have the courage to articulate how we feel, to acknowledge, to even understand what feelings are, because when we start to block them off, and this can happen in childhood for pretty much most people, we feel like they're going to break us. We feel like they are too big for us to hold. So we start to, especially if you live in a family where, emotions are, I'm English, like that whole stiff upper lip culture, like we don't really acknowledge certain feelings. It's definitely in society when I was growing up. It's not okay to be, really expressive with your, it's not to own your anger. Also, as a, little girl, it sort of was frowned upon to be angry. All of these programmings that start to impinge on the way that we operate within the world start to build up this dungeon that we, like metaphorical dungeon, that we plonk our feelings and push them in. And if all emotion is energy, these are frequencies that we start to store in our muscles, in our body. And so over time, these can build up, and these can become energetic blockages, which can then become illnesses. So the ability, and Gabor Mate has done some wonderful work about this, about, it's a whole new, go on a tangent anyway. I'll put it in the link afterwards. If you look up Gabor Mate's work about, the people dying prematurely who never express that anger, or or people who never speak their truth, people who never feel that they can stand up for themselves, all of the all of the emotions. If you keep suppressing them, if we don't let them out, then we can become ill. We also then become we can start to develop neural pathways in our brains that make us taking to us a default emotion. So we constantly feel angry because we constantly don't allow ourselves to suppress our anger. So it's always simmering there. And then the thoughts that we start to think, the way that our brain starts to fire in different situations, constantly then those neural pathways, in the same way that if you keep on saying water, dropping it down in the same direction over rock, the actual rock starts to groove. We can start to do this with our brains. And so if we're not conscious of being able to articulate and release and experience and acknowledge all of our emotions, then we have a full tree. Otherwise, we have a tree like this, and we become the angry person or the frustrated person. And then there becomes a predominant, it's almost like when that frequency comes in you, because you've got the net structure throughout your system, your neural pathways, it kind of gets stuck in you. So you become predominantly like that. So this top tip number 2 is such an important one. It seems so simple, but when you feel this apathy, this despair, this rage, whatever it is, it's acknowledging it. It's finding a healthy outlet for you to express it. And if it's not in that moment, top things for getting rid of those, like journal it out. Morning pages, great example, right? 3 pages every morning. Dump your stuff in there. Talking it out or writing letters to that person, and then either sending the letter or burning it and allowing that energy to dissipate. Chanting about it. I'm a Buddhist that chants, chanting about that. Again, that would be another video. But different things that allow your exciting lightning, allow your emotions to come through. Okay, and top tip number 3, because we're already at 20 minutes. Thank you for bearing with me, staying with me, guys. Top tip number 3 from living from your heart is follow your joy. Now, this is like a great one. This is such a good one. If you can't decide, I'm supposed to do this and I've got to do this, like, which one lights you up? Like, when people say, oh, well, make a list, make a list for all the fors and the againsts. So have you ever done that? Let me know in the comments if you have. And then you kind of look at the list and like one's got this many and one's got this many, but you're like, but I still want to do that one that only has a few things going for it. That's because your guidance system, your soul, your higher self, one of those things you're going to enjoy more. And what we enjoy, some people enjoy spreadsheets, not me. Some people's idea of doing a Facebook Live is like, oh my God, that's hell on earth. What, you have got no script, blah, 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 blah. Me, I love them. So whatever's your joy is what is right for your life. Okay. And that's real joy. That's joy that gives you energy, because there are things that are addictions and things that we use that develop from a smaller ego to keep us safe, and then we outgrow them. Again, this could be a whole video, but that's like, okay, so like you might enjoy eating loads and loads of sugar, but if you eat too much, you'll get sick. And also it'll give you a massive crash emotionally, bad for your teeth, blah, 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 blah. But of course, a little bit lights you up. But, the things that really energize you or ignite, just lift your energy just by thinking about them, and don't bring in guilt, don't bring in shame, don't trigger any of those other things. Those are the things that are right for your life. So if you want to write a list and get really analytical about it, you can do, of course, but whilst you do that list, really listen to what feelings are coming up, because ultimately lists are going to activate your brain, and your brain comes from logic, and most of the logic that we associate with is fear-based. So I have to do a stable job like X, Y, and Z, otherwise I won't have any money. And if I don't have any money, I won't have a home. And if I won't have a home, then nobody will want to have a relationship with me, and I won't have any friends, and blah, blah, blah. And all of this sort of fear-based paradigm that you can go into. However, The energy might be going, oh, but I want to be a juggler. I want to learn to juggle more things than anyone else in the world. I don't want to be a computer analyst or whatever it is. Like, there's no judgment on my perspective whether you want to be either of those things, but it's about what is the strongest emotion. And of course, those things change throughout our lives. We are different people every day when we wake up. But when we allow fear to dictate our actions, that is when we end up on our deathbed having regrets. It's that old adage, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Because essentially, as I said at the beginning, we came here to grow, and you could choose. Like, I always think of this thing, like, I don't have it here. I didn't pack a ruler, funnily enough. It wasn't in my hand luggage of choice in my last minute escaping. But when you ping a ruler, it goes, me, you know what I mean? Bong. But essentially, if you have a life where the ruler can ping this much, you have got that much more resonance, that much more experience, that much more different shades in your rainbow, different colors in your spectrum. And I really think that's what we came here down to do, is to experience this big range of things, not just a kind of meh, you know, Netflix and takeaway life, but an extraordinary range. And that doesn't need to mean you need to be reckless and live in 100 countries and, you know, get 1 million tattoos or whatever springs to your mind from what that is. But it's about having the bravery to follow your heart and make risks and go out, live out of your comfort zone on a regular basis. Do things that are going to challenge you in a good way. And if you follow your joy, you will be challenged and you will be taken out of your comfort zone, but you will be doing it in a way that is in alignment with your unique DNA blueprint of your soul. Bam, that's my end. 27 minutes on the fly. Well, there we go. If you enjoyed this, if you found it useful in any shape or form, please subscribe, please hit the little bell. I am going to be doing other lives. I am going to be doing some film videos when I will have my posh equipment and whatnot, and better lighting. And also, if you're interested in working with me, head over to my website, cacaocalling.com, www.cacaocalling.com. I've got a few courses starting in the next couple of weeks that are going to help support you through the most intense, astrologically speaking, period of the year. And I've got a lovely community of people that come in and work on those as well. And I'm also on Facebook, Cacao Calling, Instagram, Cacao Calling, Twitter, Cacao Calling, and I'll be back on here as well. Have a beautiful evening and morning, daytime, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining, and please hit the subscribe button. Lots and lots of love. Bye, bye, bye.